Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first and only podcast that exists on the internet and will ever exist on the internet. So stick around because this is it. So happy that you found it. Today in the studio, I have Morgan Alley, and believe me, I am so happy that I have her and me in the studio today because, my God, it is nasty outside. It's gonna rain. It is gusty right now. It's just a bad time to be outside. You may have heard of Morgan Alley from her fantastic photography account at Morgan Alley Photos. The link is down below in the description if you want to go and check that out. She's a singer. She's an actor. She's a photographer, as I previously mentioned. She writes a little bit. We're not going to talk about that, but she writes a little bit. And she is a phenomenal director. So without further ado, welcome to the station. Let's have a conversation. Hello, everyone. And now that we're finally in the studio, welcome to the station. Today we have Morgan Alley standing right there, and she's making a weird face because I totally changed my voice when I started this episode.
Yeah, that was really alarming. Hi, everybody.
Okay, I just showed you the intro, and I've already said many things about all of your accomplishments, but again, director, singer, writer,
I don't really know who you are.
director, singer, writer, basket weaver, actor, quilt maker, origami enthusiast. I don't know, I'm making shit up now, but
No kidding.
hi, Morgan. Welcome to the studio.
Hi, Henry. I practically live here.
Yeah, I know. This is kind of weird. If all who don't know, I co-host a podcast with Morgan called ... that I plugged in the latest episode. And if you stick around to the end, I'm gonna plug again because I'm a bitch.
It's also just really good, and you should listen.
Oh yeah, it's that too. It's definitely.
But this feels like a real role reversal because ... is kind of the podcast that I control, and Henry just reacts. And so it's super weird for me to come into this studio without copious notes and a couple of hours of research and not knowing anything. So
welcome.
So I guess I'm the one who's just reacting.
My singing teacher's texting me right now as we're doing. I got it. There we go. Okay.
All right, great.
Let's pop it.
Good work.
Edit that out. Okay, so let's just pop into the directing questions.
Okay, sure. I'm prepared and totally qualified.
We're going to be talking about directing. We're going to be talking about photography.
Okay.
If you're interested in that, it's in the title. You should have been interested in it. Why the fuck did you listen to this? Come
My
on.
sparkling personality, obviously.
So, my first question. How
Okay.
did you originally get into directing?
So, to be completely honest, I had always kind of wanted to direct. I had spent most of my junior year stage managing and sort of getting into the more technical side of theater, contrary to my previous years of experience that had been strictly focused on acting and performing. But I was really interested, and I worked with a really great guy named Andrew Katzman for the first part of my junior year, who just absolutely inspired me. I had never worked with a director like him who just made you look at things in a totally different light. And working with him and working on True West by Sam Shepard was an absolutely life-altering experience that I could talk about for literally hours.
Go ahead. Talk about that experience. I think that just saying that we're all kind of interested in how that affected your journey to being a director.
Fair enough. So Andrew is a guy that I met through Testing 1 2 3 4, a collaboration with my high school and my high school's drama club and the Contemporary Theater Company down in Wakefield. It was my first year ever doing it, and I was put in a show called True West by Sam Shepard, this really, really beautiful, beautiful play. Absolutely a wonderful read, even if you're not a
It was truly amazing.
Yeah, and I played Austin, and Emily Rodriguez played Lee, and we only focused on one scene from it. But I had never really delved into a script, into how different inflections in your voice convey different things. I had never focused on beat changes or tone shifts or character development, really. Basically, before that, performing for me was finding a way to say was entirely comedy, first of all. This was my first time ever
Okay.
doing something that was not comedic.
Oh, this was your first. So, do you think that had something to do with how much it affected you?
Oh,
like your
absolutely.
First introduction to dramatic acting was under such an experienced director.
I don't think that I would, because then in the next testing, I was also put in a serious show, and I did not enjoy that at all.
Yeah,
So the lights just flickered.
that light does that sometimes.
Oh, cool. I think it absolutely affected the way that I think about it. I now do not focus on comedy at all. When we're going to talk about Dimitri JPEG, my most recent directing escapades, what's really interesting, although it was a comedy, is that the things that I enjoyed directing the most was the more serious parts of it. I think it definitely had a big effect working under Andrew, and that being my first introduction to dramatic theater absolutely had an effect on why I was so interested, because there are only so many things that you can evoke from comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas...
And there's also so many things that, like, experiences that laughter can heal until you have to talk about the experiences themselves.
Right. I had, before working with Andrew, before working on True West, I absolutely never, ever, ever thought about putting my own experiences into performing. And he made me think. And I think that's why I wanted to get into directing, because after working with him, I realized how many similarities we had, and, you know, the way that we view things and view people and draw experiences and put them into our work. I had never put it into my own performing.
Would you say that it was almost like watching another version of yourself already succeed? So you're like, okay, I can do this.
I wish I could compare myself to Andrew Katzman in total confidence. I think that he is the most talented person that I know. I think that there are a lot of similarities in the way that we interact with the world, and I wanted to help other people that I was close with experience the world in a similar way, because I think we both look at the world in a way that people don't really a lot of the time. And so I wanted to help people.
Okay, let me explore that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Take the average person.
Sure.
How do they look at the world versus how a trained eye, I'm calling your eye trained for this question, a trained eye view the world in terms of hardships and light?
Ooh, that's such an interesting question. I think, obviously, I can't speak for the average person, because I've had a lot of things that would make me into something that you wouldn't call average. For me, I know that there are 100 underlying thoughts to every phrase that is said. That might just be because of my anxiety. But I think something that I learned from Andrew is that when we say things, when we're in charged conversations, for example, if I was in a fight with you and I said, let's not forget that one time, there could be 21 times.
Yeah.
There could be a history of abuse, of passion, of makeups and breakups and all of that. And when you say, let's not forget about that one time, you need to convey your seriousness, the pain that you felt, as if you're feeling it again. And I don't think that a lot of people could explain that or convey that in such a way and understand that concept. I think that that's rather abstract.
Okay, so overly simplifying, what I'm hearing you say is that the way that you're viewing the world now is in a way that every single thing is a learning experience to apply later of some aspect of your life at that moment.
Oh, 1,000%. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean...
elaborate on that.
I'm just trying to think on how to elaborate. The things that we experience, whether we know it or not, do end up in our lives later on.
History tends to repeat itself.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, for me, and elaborating on my last point, that we see the world differently. I look at people, in the grocery store, a woman having a fight with her husband, a child throwing a temper tantrum. I see all of those things. And I don't just think, oh, that's another person passing by. I think about everything that had to go into that, because nobody blows up. Nobody just erupts.
No one just explodes.
Exactly.
Like analogy that I always enjoy is that there's a switch inside of every single person between a good thing and a bad thing that they're doing. But it doesn't. But that's inside of them. So it takes another person to reach into their head and flip it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People drive people insane. But it's not just one action. It's a history of action.
Yeah. Now, you said that you stage managed with Andrew.
Yes, I did.
Now, you stage managed in a show called Dirt.
Yes.
At the CTC.
Yes.
And you also then proceeded to go on and direct the first generation and second generation
yes.
of Dimitri JPEG.
Yes.
Now, taking those two experiences, what was the biggest shift, as if there was a switch that was turned on,
right,
between those two experiences?
Control.
Elaborate.
So, working with Andrew has changed my life in a lot of ways as an actor and as a stage manager. I don't think that I would have been interested in directing if not having worked with him. Again, basically, I was working intensely with him for like 6 months with no break.
Yeah.
In both capacities, both off the stage and on.
And also working with someone that passionate can...
I know.
Really...
God love him. I need to call him. Can you imagine we call him right now?
Let's call him on the show. Yeah.
No, that'd be crazy.
Later. Let's do it
later. So working with Andrew, again, God love him. He's a control freak in every aspect. He focuses on the little tiny details. And the more that I talk about him, the more that I realize how many similarities we do have. I'll talk about my crazy little tiny details, I'm sure, on this show. But working with Andrew, I was always second fiddle. He was really good about taking my advice. He knew, I don't know how, but he knew that I would have a knack for it, an eye for, the finer details, how things should be conveyed, how actors should be moving, standing, breathing, anything. And he always I think he encouraged me to take notes, which I had never done before.
But at the end of the day, there was still the hierarchy.
Absolutely. He would take my notes, some of them. Sometimes he would sit with me and question me about them. But
which again probably added to the experience of like, oh my God.
Yes. I had also never been on the organization behind the scenes aspect of something. He entirely took over lighting and sound and not entirely costume design, but he was definitely the person that was in charge of all of that. I was really just collecting and keeping everything organized and trying to keep everybody sane. But I had never been that person. I had always been the I'm stressed out actor and I don't know what I'm doing. So... But the difference is that I had a lot more control that I had previously had in any of my other projects, but I still didn't have complete control. Whereas Dimitri, first generation, I want to say a little bit more help than I did for the second generation, but I don't think I really did.
Yeah.
Because obviously...
Well, I think that by the second generation, and stop me if I'm wrong, but the first generation, that was the first time that show had seen a stage.
Right.
That show had seen a director.
Mm-hmm.
That show had been directed at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the extra helping hand, that was valid.
Right. Absolutely.
Having that helping hand. But by the time that you saw it and you reintroduced it to the stage, you had an idea of a ground set of where you could pick off of. Right.
And there was a lot of differences between the first and second generation. And I think it was so valuable for me to be able to pick it up twice.
Oh, yeah.
But the difference is that even with the first generation, even though I did have a little bit of a helping hand, whether it be from people at the CTC, because we rehearsed in a lot of different spaces, or Michael Alper would come in and, suggest some things. Sometimes I wouldn't take his suggestions, but, whatever. By the second time, absolutely, I had full control. If I didn't make a decision, nothing got done.
Yep.
Whereas stage managing, if I didn't want to make a decision, I could be like, Andrew, what's the tea, dude?
Was there a lonely pillar aspect to it?
What do you mean?
When you were up there on the final, I'm going to use the analogy of a pillar.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Did it seem like all the rest of your help was at the bottom and you were at the top, kind of lonely there and stressed out about, at the end of the day, it is my decision?
Mm-hmm. I was really lucky because I had Elizabeth helping me as the assistant director in both generations, and she was a gigantic help. It was really cool to be able to ask for her clarification or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I was really lucky because for my first time directing, there wasn't a lot of groundwork in terms of staging notes or costuming notes or anything, because Elizabeth, it was her first time doing a go-around for an entire complete script.
Oh, yeah.
So and of course, she had very limited experience in the past.
Yeah.
Even reading scripts and so forth. So I don't want to say she didn't know that was something that she needed, because there was a little bit of that. But it did make me really stressed out for the first go around because, it was a blessing and a curse. It did make me stressed out, but it was also so much room to play and so cool to not have any notes. I'm sure Elizabeth had an idea in her head, but how it should be staged, where the actors should be, how they should be dressed, what they should be doing. I didn't have any of that, which is something you would normally have. And definitely by the second go around, although Elizabeth and Meredith, for the second go around, my stage manager, were very helpful, it was really stressful to have to make a lot of off the cuff decisions. I did feel really lonely because in a lot of ways, I had included so many people at that point. We had, the 7-person cast, and I had my 7 or 8 or 9-person tech crew it was all said and done. If I didn't make the right decision, this is something I don't think I've ever admitted to anybody about it. I felt that it would be my fault if I didn't do everything absolutely right or how I thought it was absolutely right.
And why do you think that was such a prevalent thought in your mind?
I don't want to disappoint people. And especially for the second generation, when I didn't have to fight other directors for casting, I had my entire choice. I had so many people audition because they had seen the first generation or just because they wanted to work with me for whatever reason. I had chosen who I believe to be the absolute best of the best people and actors. People first and foremost, because I was a very firm believer from the very beginning as a director. Cast good people, not good actors, because you can make a good actor out of anybody.
Yeah.
But if you don't have somebody who is good and honest and committed,
like wanting to show up and do it,
yes, then everything falls apart. Because we did have issues in the first generation, and I'm not going to put people on blast. There's quite a few people who gave me quite a lot of problems. And it was really awesome for the second generation to just have people that were going to go with me, and they were going to do things that they never saw themselves doing. And then they were just so ready to learn and experience. And I didn't want to let them down because I knew from the very first read through, I was reading, oddly enough, a couple of days ago, I was reading something that I had written after the first read through for the second generation.
Oh, okay.
And we had sat in the auditorium, and I got you all binders and snacks. And the binder is right up there. And after we had done that read through, after we had sent you all home, Elizabeth and I got in the car and we just cried because we knew that it was going to be something magical. I cannot explain to you the energy in that room, the passion that I felt, the laughs that we shared, the memes that continued until the very last breath. Caroline Johnson is somebody that volunteers at the camp that I'm working at every single day in the summer. And
Shout out to Caroline.
we said the other day, Dimitri never died. Dimitri is going to be this generation of freshmen's Shrek. They're going to be making references like my class did, Shrek the Musical, for their entire high school career and onward.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make it really special for people because I know Drama Fest is something that people really look forward to. And I guess that was a prevalent thought because I wanted to make it special for people, and I wanted to outdo myself because I thought I did a damn good job on the first generation, and I wanted to do an even better job on the second generation.
Was there a pressure there, that
very
you
much
added on to yourself?
Very much so, and especially because Elizabeth and I had been offered Drama Fest the second night of the first generation's premiere.
Yeah. We don't talk about the first night.
We don't talk about...
That didn't exist.
June 2nd was a mess.
That didn't exist.
But June 3rd was really something very, very special. And Mr. Alper came up to me after it, and Andrew Casson was there to watch and support me, and Mr. Alper offered me Drama Fest for my senior year, which is another big deal because I knew that would be a damn good thing to put on my college applications because people don't get to just randomly direct the only competition that your school goes to.
And not only that, but also such a life-altering show.
Right.
Basically, after that, they were like, oh, could you do that again? Mm-hmm. And make another audience laugh, cry,
convulse on the floor? In my case, yeah, it was a really special and big offer to get. And then, of course, after Elizabeth and I got that offer, we're both dreamers, and we are, in my opinion, the absolute best team to work together. We understand each other better than anybody else that I know. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, I think, is a actually wonderful comparison for the two of us.
Absolutely.
Because we work so incredibly well together. And of course, after we got that offer, Elizabeth and I dreamt and schemed and drew up plans and set designs and started online shopping and doing sound design. The longest stretch Elizabeth and I ever went just planning Dimitri was 13 hours.
Wow.
And that was just the summer before our senior year even began. So we were thinking and exploring, and I just remember I don't know when the Finesse remix came out, but the day that came out, I was in Elizabeth's car for whatever reason. We were hanging out, and I made her watch the music video, and I had been thinking about a color scheme because color is everything in theater.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the arts in general, but especially in theater, color affects moods so much.
Because it makes the entire show pop.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes. And I remember making her watch that music video. And at the end of it, I said, Elizabeth, I was thinking about something and I wanted to run it by you. Because Elizabeth was my right-hand man, but at the end of the day, it was my decisions. And she always respected that, which I loved. But I remember looking at her and I said, what do you think about primaries? Because our color scheme was red, blue, and yellow, primary colors. Because what I wanted to do, because Dimitri was a comedy based on a 90s sitcom, right? 90s sitcoms are bright and loud and gay. Yeah. But the Dimitri script, much like 90s sitcoms, is not all bright and loud and gay. The visuals are. But there's something that's always struck me about that type of television, theater, anything, is that the bright exterior truly belies the serious topics that are going on below the surface.
Yeah.
And that's something that we got praised on during judging, was how creative that was, how incredibly powerful that was to have these bright cartoony colors, and then a kid coming out as gay and somebody candidly talking about having anxiety attacks and friendships breaking and making up and all of these real universal problems.
Yeah, while everything was explained in 45 minutes, pretty much.
Yeah, and then you're staring at just these beautiful wonderful set designs.
Just they were really good.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at pictures with my campers today and they were like, that is the coolest set. Those are the coolest costumes. And I'm like, damn right they are.
Now, back to directing.
Fair enough.
What's the biggest thing that you learned about directing from the actors?
I learned...
Because being a director, that must be a constant learning process.
It is. I was flying by the seat of my pants for the whole damn thing.
So what was the biggest thing that you learned from them?
That's really hard because, like I said to the Dimitri kids, I hope they're listening because I love them all dearly and I think about you all the time. I said, even after we hadn't won, although we should have, and I will talk about why, I said, even if we didn't win, I learned so much from you. And I mean that.
I remember that.
And it's hard. It's hard to pinpoint the biggest thing. But I learned so much about people and emotions. Maybe not about directing, because I think learning about directing was a lot about learning how to work with people. But I don't know.
I think that it was a sense of applied learning.
Right.
Because you had just spent all that time with Andrew Katzman, learning that you loved this thing. Mm-hmm. And then you finally got to do it again. And since it was the second generation, you got to do it right this time.
Right. I think the biggest thing that I learned is how much people truly feel. And how to really treat people to then get the results that you want. For example, I'm going to put you on blast. You called me about a week before the show went up. And God bless you, kids. God bless you, kids. I tried to make it as painless as possible. I was bringing in snacks. We were having music breaks. We were having just like sit down breaks. I was trying to make this as painless as possible. But the fact of the matter is, rehearsing for 8 hours a day, every single day after an 8-hour school day.
There's like no way to not make that painless.
I know. There's no way to not make it painful. I think I did a pretty good job of making it as easy as I could.
I mean, looking back, it was a dream.
Yeah.
Like during it was just like, I'm in hell and I need to die.
Yeah. Yeah. And I knew everybody was kind of getting mad at me, which is another thing that I learned about directing is that
you have to be a vengeful bitch. Not a vengeful bitch, but just a bitch in general sometimes.
You have to be the bitch. And you have to accept that people are going to get mad at you, but you have to learn or you have to know how to treat people in the right way so they don't hold a permanent grudge. And I think that's the thing that I learned most about directing is how from actors is that directing doesn't end when you're in rehearsal. Directing is 24/7. I would get texts late at night sending me videos of people doing their lines, running their lines, because you kids were so goddamn good, saying, what about this beat change? Does this tone shift work? Does my body look okay while doing this? And having kids that are so committed is, again, both a blessing and a curse, because I learned how to treat people and correct people in a way that wouldn't hurt them. I like to think that I never once squashed a dream. We just corrected things that weren't working.
Yeah.
I learned so much from the kids, especially in the way that other people see the world. Because again, I think I see it in a pretty special way. And to try and explain...
Certainly a unique way.
Yeah. And trying to explain how I want things conveyed, this like very specific tiny sliver of something that I saw once. And then to have that effectively conveyed on stage was a really difficult thing. And I learned that not everybody's going to get it on the first time.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, back to putting you on blast.
Yeah, back to putting me on blast.
I I have so much to say about Dimitri, and I could talk about it for hours. It was so crazy. I haven't talked about directing in a long time, but putting you on...
That's why I wanted you on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, put me on blast.
Putting you on blast, learning how to deal with people, especially when you're a peer directing peers. That's so hard. I would do it again in a heartbeat, but it's so hard, especially with you. Because Henry is one of my best friends in the whole wide world, and I love him to death.
You're one of my best friends in the whole wide world.
Got a call from Henry about a week before. And Henry said, I'm mad at you. And I said...
Which also shows like the kind of friendship that we have. We're not just like, no, nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
We're just like,
I'm mad at you. And I said, why? Knowing damn well why. And he said, I'm tired. I don't want to work anymore. It doesn't feel like I'm hanging out with friends and doing something that I love. It feels like work. I'm like,
It did.
all of these things. And I said, Henry, go to bed. Because he was tired because we had been working 16-hour days.
And it was like 11 o'clock at night.
Yes, it was. I was dyeing his pants for the show because he needed to be yellow, and we ordered white pants because we couldn't find yellow pants. That shows you the lengths that I went for the show. It was a 3-hour dyeing process to get the correct shade of yellow that would match the yellows of the walls that I found from a paint swatch at Home Depot. Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And I said, Henry, you are reaching a point that we all reach, that I reached with Dirt, that I reached with True West, that every young actor reaches, and it deters the fakes from the real ones, that acting is not all fun and games. It is work. It is real life. It is difficult. But you have to power through because in your case, you have something very, very special. But I know so many people that have tried to direct and have gotten the same phone call and have just completely fallen apart. And that's what I learned most from the actors. Is
even
that
when they fall apart, you have to, I'm going to use the pillar analogy. You have to be the pillar that has a strong foundation.
Yeah, which is something else that I never said until a lot later to only a few of the Dimitri kids, is that I was just as terrified as you all were, if not more. All of you who were with me at the festival knows that I didn't sleep or eat for days because I was so scared, but I couldn't show any of that fear. I had to run warm-ups. I had to make sure all the costumes were in order. I had to fix our last-minute emergencies. I had to do all of that with a level head and pretend that I wasn't absolutely falling apart. And that's hard.
Let me go off of that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, the dictionary definition of direct includes a line that I thought that I would pose to you.
Okay.
And I have it right here. It says to aim something in a particular direction.
Sure.
Now, do you feel as though the direction that you've aimed your actors in during all the shows you've been involved with was the correct direction? I also said whiz, and I meant with.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Elaborate.
I am a perfectionist in every aspect of the word. And I refused, and anybody who worked on a show with me could tell you, would absolutely refuse to move on until it was perfect. Do I think I handled everything perfectly? I tried.
I don't think any, we're human beings.
Yeah.
I don't think any person
No,
can
and I'm
handle
not
everything
and I'm not
perfectly.
saying that I'm perfect, but I think do I think every note that I gave was perfect? Absolutely not. But there's no way to give one note every time that's going to be perfect and absolutely make the most sense, and it's just going to click with the actor right away. That's just not real life.
I think that
I tried.
Like, I know that it took me like
Yeah.
2 or 3 times getting the same note to actually like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what that actually means. Like, I kept trying what you were saying, and then it wouldn't work. And you would give me the exact same, like, to the phrase. You wouldn't even reword it at all. You're just like, think about what I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of an eye-opening experience.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Like, I need to think about notes in more than just one way.
Right. And I learned a lot about how different people take notes. You were a special case.
How do I take notes? Rip me to shreds.
I love you so much. I love you so much. But sometimes you act as if you are God's gift to acting and that your way or the highway, and you won't take notes until you take one and you realize it's 10 times better than what you were doing. And then you take a couple more and then you
get back to it.
And then you go back to not taking notes as well. And it's like this constant back and forth.
Can that be infuriating?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to absolutely rip your hair out. Just like, oh my God. And then some people will take them no problem. And then some people take them in a weird way that you didn't want it to be taken. You have to rephrase and try and reshape to what you wanted it to be. So,
but then I think,
think I directed everybody perfectly? I guess not. But I like to think that I got it as perfect as I could. And that I tried to make everything in my eyes, to me, watching that show, was as perfect as it could have been. And that the words that you were saying were not shallow.
All right.
There was depth, I guess.
Now,
did I answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
It kind of goes into the next one.
Okay.
So, is there a doubt in that exact moment when you're giving a note that was the best note that you could have given in that moment?
There's always doubt. There's always doubt. When I would be giving notes, I would often, because I believe wholeheartedly in honesty with your actors, unless it's, of course, trying to be the pillar of sophistication, grace, and confidence, which I tried to be because I didn't want anybody to see me sweat. I think
a pillar is a good analogy.
It is a good analogy. Yeah. Like, I didn't want to have frequent breakdowns because there are some directors that I work with that their strategy is to have breakdowns and to yell at people and verbally abuse them, and it's just not a good way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, no one really...
There's no steadfast way to do it.
Yeah. Also, personally, like, in my experience, most people don't react well to yelling.
Yeah, that's also true.
Like, if you pose yourself as a person that's there for this is what you do. Mm-hmm. Every single interaction that you have, at least with me, I'm the only person in the room that matters in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So every single note that you would pose, I'm the only actor that mattered on the stage at that moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is great.
There's always doubt. And I, like I said, I always believed in honesty. So I would oftentimes say, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try it. And sometimes it would, and sometimes it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's just how we did it. So there's always doubt, because sometimes people would... It's so funny because you guys go to get mad at me sometimes, because I'd be like, that's just not working. And you were like... And then they would be like, well, you said it worked last time. Or this is exactly how you directed me to do it. And I would say, well, we got to change it. Because I'm not perfect.
And also...
I think I made it as perfect as I could in the end. Because that show was a masterpiece.
You yourself come to that show a different way based on what mood you're in that day.
That's so true. That is so true.
Like, I remember through that show, I just had this... Because I suffer from depression. I'm open about that.
Mm-hmm.
I had this spell of like, oh, life sucks. So you only focused on like happy scenes until I was better. And then you said, take the sadness you felt before. We're going to work on scene 7, which is a really heavy, sad scene. And then we're going to use that.
Yes.
And that was the day that scene 7 made you cry.
Yes. Yeah. I tried really hard, because this is something that Andrew said to me, and I take it with me and everything, is if you're feeling sad, then Forrest is just going to be sad today. If you're stuffed up, then Forrest is going to be stuffy and sick today.
Forrest was my character, for all who don't know.
For reference, it's... You take life experiences and you have to... When you're working on a show that intense, you have to take every life experience that you're experiencing in those moments, in that life that you're living right then, as well as your past. And you have to bring those things together and you have to put it all into that performance. So you take these flat characters and you make them, people. Because there's characters on a page, there's fleshed out characters on a stage, and then there's people that you're watching.
Yeah.
That are totally separate from the actor, or not so totally separate. Hopefully, and I know for my Dimitri kids, there was so much of you in those characters.
Yeah, it was cast well.
Thank you. I tried so hard. That was another thing that was so scary, casting.
Because relating back to earlier what you said, you don't like to disappoint people.
Yeah.
And you were that coach on the cheer team.
Yes.
That had to cut an entire section of people.
I could have casted 3 Dimitris. The whole show. 3 whole different shows. And
can you imagine if we did 3 whole different shows?
Oh my God. It would be really interesting. I plan on, if Elizabeth would allow me to, picking up this script in a couple of years.
As a social experiment, I would be interested in that. If we took every single note that you gave to Dimitri, to Forrest, to Judy, to everyone, and you gave it and did 3 different shows all at the same time, but you only gave those notes. No matter what they were doing, no matter what scene it was, you only gave those notes. How would that differentiate?
Yeah, I mean, it was the same script the first and second time. The characters were so different.
Yeah.
Even, you who repeated a character.
Yeah.
And Sarah who repeated a character, which
I actually really enjoyed that.
Repeating a character, yeah.
Yeah, because it got me more time with the script.
Absolutely.
And it made me like...
I only gave repeat characters to actors that I thought could handle it. Because... And you were special, and Sarah was special, because there's something about picking up that script. Again, after a couple of months of being away from it, in your case, I hadn't been away from it, that you would repeat some old habits and then bring things that were entirely new because of the changes that you yourself had made. But repeating a character, working so intensely at that point for a year, you'd worked on that character for a year. Only a specific type of actor can do that because it is so easy to fall into habits. And we had to break a lot of habits for you.
Yeah.
So
Gay
many.
Irish pirate.
Gay Irish pirate's my absolute favorite acting exercise.
Please talk about that.
So when the actors...
That's in here.
So when the actors fall into habits, when they're saying the same lines, same ways, because it made me laugh once,
Which we do often. If we get that positive feedback.
Yeah, because I'm very I'm very critical.
Mm-hmm.
I was very open. I give predominantly negative notes, not because you're doing everything wrong, but because I want the praise to mean something. Similar to why I was always calm, cool, collected, I wanted when I did have a breakdown for it to mean something.
It was also a moment. I
would be interested to hear what you thought. Because I did give predominantly not negative notes. I don't think there are any negative notes, but constructive criticism.
There was a certain moment where I realized not to view it in the way of I'm doing these things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm doing everything else right.
Right.
Than delivering this one line.
But the
So
thing,
I was like, okay, take it like that. I didn't really practice what I preached. Like there would be some moments where I would just be like,
you fell into
like, come
habits a
on.
lot. You fell into habits a lot. That was your special thing.
that was my thing.
Which is fine. And I like to think that by the end of it, hopefully when you go on your next acting escapade, it will be different, because especially by the end of Dimitri, our last couple of weeks of rehearsal, there was no kickback. There was very few falling into habit moments. You played with a line on stage, which was so cool.
Do you remember what line it was?
I don't remember what line it was, but I remember sitting backstage, and it was something with Kat. You were sitting on stage with Kat, and I remember thinking, oh shit, I should have, before you had played with the line, oh shit, he fell into a habit on this one. And I never broke it, because at that point we were just so focused on getting runs and timing and everything. And I thought, oh fuck.
And when I did that line, I broke it.
And when you did that line, you broke it on stage in this beautiful moment of glory. And I was like, I cried. I cried so much. Backstage, I nearly vomited.
What? On which scene did you nearly vomit?
You and Mike broke the pact, scene 8. And I was so nervous
that one
because
was so hard to do.
You had just killed scene 7. You had just killed it. And I was like, dear God, let scene 8 be as beautiful and powerful. And you guys did so well that I was holding back screams. I think I was squeezing honor or something. I was like so excited. I was clutched onto somebody like you would not even believe. I don't even remember. I was so in my own element, just watching you all for the time that counted. And you guys did it so well that I was like crying, like snot was running down my face, and I almost vomited, because I was like, oh my God, it was all worth something, you know?
It was the final product of a project you had been working on for 2 years of your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a brief little quote from elementsofcinema.com.
Sure.
They say that, quote, the director must be a tyrant and a Democrat, a dreamer and a realist, a rebel and a loyalist. They have to give orders and follow them. They have to demand and obey. They have to be the most snobbish and most sociable person on set. They are the manager, the judge, the president, a friend. They are all these things and much more. Do you agree with that statement?
So I'm going to follow with a direct quote from my college essay.
Okay.
That I wrote on Dimitri JPEG. When I took on this project, it quickly became clear to me that I was not just taking on the role of director. I was taking on every role, on and off stage, and it was terrifying. I was the costume designer, the light specialist, the stage manager, the problem solver, the set designer, the sound technician, the photographer, the marketing mastermind, the makeup artist, the graphic designer, the prop collector, and most importantly, I was the one personifying every character that would walk onto that stage.
So what you're saying is you don't agree with that statement? No, it's kidding.
I believe it with every
agree.
fiber of my being. The pillar analogy works really well, but you aren't just the person that everybody's turning to for guidance or whatever. You have to think about everything and what everybody is feeling and what everybody is doing. I would say it a lot because obviously Elizabeth, my best friend in the whole wide world, wrote that show.
Yeah.
And I oftentimes would point out to actors, this is something that I said. There are conversations in that show that are direct quotes from Elizabeth and I. I would go home, secret time, and I would run the script as if I was Kat, as if I was Forrest, as if I was Dimitri, and I would play with how I was saying it, how I was doing it, how I was carrying myself, and I would compare it to how you guys would do it and how it would differ just from my own personal interest.
What did you find?
There was a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. Because my life experiences made the way that I would personify the characters a lot different from the way that you guys would personify them. Not better or worse, just different.
Just live different lives.
We just live different lives. But as a director, you are everything. You have to think about everything, which is something that I didn't really think about when I took on directing for the first time. I didn't think that I would have to think about costume design or lights or the set. I didn't think about any of that. And it was really, really cool and scary to have to think about that, to do all of that when I had absolutely no experience in it whatsoever. And I would just think and I would dream, and I came up with something that I think was pretty good.
Yeah.
But you have to think about everything, and that is what it means to be a director. You have to be every role, even if it doesn't have a title.
Now, with all that practicing and everything, was there ever a moment in the directing process where you had no idea how to direct the actors?
Yeah. The coming out scene.
And what about that scene made it so hard to put forward?
I'm not gay. I don't know what it's like.
So it was the first moment of that show where you could no longer pull from your life experiences.
Right. And it was really hard. We did it. You, as the person who came out, could attest to this. We did it two very different ways.
Oh, yeah.
Two very different ways. Both, I think, were incredibly effective. I prefer the second time.
So do I.
We did it two very different ways. Because the first time, it was a big, dramatic, long, serious reveal. And the tone of that scene was not flat, because I like to think that none of my scenes were ever flat. And that was something that I was praised on, is that there was dimension and arcs. Even where it wasn't obvious that there should be, we created them, and it made the show come to life. And the second time, it was, I'm gay, and then playfulness, and then seriousness, and then playfulness again. They were very different. The second time, you didn't wait as long. It wasn't as long a pause. It wasn't as like a breath-holding moment for the audience. There was still a holding of the breath, and anxiousness, and anticipation, but it wasn't dun dun dun. Yeah. He's gay. It was, he's gay, and it's hard for him to admit, but it's okay, and he's found a person that's going to accept him. But I didn't know how to do that. And I am so proud of myself that I did.
Now, taking off of that and taking off of all of your experiences with directing, what's the biggest tip that you would give to someone that's wanting to go into directing but just can't find a show or can't find something to direct?
Patience, both in finding the show and directing the show. Patience is a virtue, because I promise you, there are going to be moments where you just absolutely want to pull your hair out and you want to quit, and you think there's no way that this can possibly shape up. But if you're the right person for the job, because not everybody can direct, and I am going to be so honest about that. Not everybody is meant to be a director, because there are some people who just don't know how to treat people, who are not able to view the world in a way that they can pull life experiences or allow their actors to pull life experiences. But if you're the type of person that is made to direct, read shows, read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows and books on directing and watch directing reels and learn. You have to learn before you jump in. I learned a lot from who I believe to be the best.
Yeah.
And I will continue learning, considering that's what I'm going to be part of what I'm going to be studying as I go to college. The right show will come and you'll feel it. Reading Dimitri for the first time, I felt it. And that may sound cheesy and stupid.
It doesn't.
But I was sitting in my room and I was reading it. And I could hear the characters in my head. And I could see them. Didn't know who they were, but I could see them. And I could see how we were going to stage it and what we were going to do with it. And you can feel it. Similar to when you found the one, so I hear.
So,
you read shows and they resonate with you.
So you would say that if you're meant to be a director, directing finds you.
Yeah. Like I said, all the time throughout Dimitri, I would have never anticipated that by the end of my senior year, I would be going off to college and I would be studying theater, let alone studying theater, focusing on the offstage aspects. I was terrified and still am terrified to even be studying theater as one of my 2 majors. But it's something that I feel I need to do. But I never ever could have imagined that, because I thought if I ever did study theater, it would absolutely be in a performing capacity. And there was no question about that. But it found me, and I found a show, and I did it. And I could give advice for hours and hours and hours. And Elizabeth hopefully is going to eventually publish the show. And it's going to be put on in high schools all across America. And I'm hoping that she allows me, because we talked about it, to put in director's notes. Just in the beginning, not intruding in the script, but writing about the specific challenges that are going to come with each character and how I believe the set and costume should be.
In terms of characters, I've had it for the longest because I was in the room when you asked me to read for Forrest.
Yeah.
And now, stepping off that stage of Drama Fest and looking back on it now that it's completely over and it's all wrapped up. The feelings that I felt about that character then, and the feelings that I ended with that character, and the feelings that, like, I still love that character, and I would still get up on stage and play him in a heartbeat, are completely polar opposites, and that is 100% because I had you as a director.
Oh. And
that's the main reason why I wanted to talk about directing with you on the show. But hang out through the music, everybody.
Ow.
Stick around.
My heart hurts.
And we're going to be back with Morgan in just a little bit, talking about another one of her little passions that she has. Stick around. Ugh. Oh my God. Guys, I have the biggest problem in the world. The station is my new favorite podcast, but I never know when it's uploading and when I can get my amazing podcast dosage. Well, I'm here to tell you. Every single Monday at 8 a.m., check the Semicolon Studios YouTube channel, and guess what? You will have an hour-long episode that you can just sit down and watch. You need a study break. You just need to escape the world. You need a stress relief, little me talking into your ear about stuff that you care about. Well, guess what? Mondays at 8 a.m., check the Semicolon Studios YouTube channel. That is Mondays at 8 a.m., and you're going to get all your station needs. Now, without further ado, back to the action. All right, guys, we're back. We're doing the thing. We're going to be talking about photography now because that's Morgan's other passion.
Yeah.
I love these little breaks. We have like 10 minutes of just not being in the sauna that is the studio.
Oh my God, it's so hot. I'm wearing sweatpants that I stole from Elizabeth. Ugh. I'm sorry. I took them a couple weeks ago and I haven't given them back.
Does she know that they're here?
Yeah, she has some.
Just like, no.
She has some items of my clothing also. We're just really in a long-term relationship. No.
You're in a one-night stand relationship.
Right.
You just leave stuff accidentally at people's houses.
So you have a reason to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duh.
But like my legs are so sweaty, and it's like I gave Henry a big long hug because honestly I'm just really proud of Henry and like everything that he does, and like I haven't really delved into it like ever in person with him, and I'm not going to do it on the air because that'll be embarrassing for both of us because I'll probably start crying.
We'll do it after the episode though.
But I was like, oh man, my armpits probably smell. But like we've been in the sauna for a couple of hours, so like
I was gifted. And I never have to put on deodorant. I do, but I actually don't because I don't stink.
Fuck off.
I never get BO. Ever.
Fuck off. Just another... So Henry's on my screensaver in a really intense way. There's the picture. It's on my Instagram if you follow it. We were recreating a promotional photo from Riverdale, and Henry and I are in the center, and... Henry is Archie and I'm Veronica, I think, in the original promotional photo. So I was like, Henry, I chose you for this because you're the only person that would allow me to really just be fake seductive with you for as long as it takes to get this picture right.
Yeah.
And every time I open my phone to check the time at camp, because I work at a summer camp, I see that picture and my little girls see that picture. And today they're all convinced that I'm dating Henry. And I'm like, nope, that's my son. And they're like, you're 18. And I'm like, yep, that's my son.
You want to meet his father? Like,
fuck.
Anyways.
I don't know how we got to that point.
What got you into photography?
So this is kind of a really interesting question. I've always really liked it. I used to... This is really cute. I wrote an essay on photography for a scholarship. And when I was 5, the first time I ever did any like photography, of course I would like steal my mom's whatever, but I actually stole my mom's digital camera off of her dresser and I brought it to preschool with me.
Whoa.
And
How did you get into photography? I was a criminal.
It was just off my mom's dresser. But I thought it would be the funniest thing in the whole wide world because I used to ride to and from school with my like childhood best friend Amanda because she lived right across the street from me. So we would just ride into school together because we went to the same school.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And we took photos of our bare feet in the back of my mom's car or something. Or like in her mom's car. I don't know. I don't remember the logistics. I was 5. It was 2005. It's been a long time. The world has changed a lot. What?
Yeah. Lincoln was still president. Wait,
yeah, what? Wait, that's not right. We thought it would be so funny, and I lost the camera at school.
Oh no!
And so they tried to go I lost it in the classroom. So my teacher tried to go through the pictures to figure out whose camera it was.
Oh, so you got the camera back?
And she just saw like 60 pictures of like bare toddler feet.
Any other setting than in a classroom like that?
Like in a preschool? Yeah.
Any other setting?
That's pedophilia.
That's not okay.
No.
Also foot fetish.
Oh my God.
Like that's just a combination. Like even one of them you don't want. That's a combination that's like, oh God.
Toddler. And so she gave back because eventually she like found other pictures on the camera and she like gave it back to my mom. And she was like, what is this about? Like, control your baby. So I like to say that's how I got into photography. But I guess the serious answer would be I took a photography class my junior year of high school with Mr. Daniel Gagnon, and it changed my life.
How did it change your life? You just opened your mind even more to the world? Mr.
Gagnon's magical. He makes everybody around him want to learn and create. I think he's wonderful. So I took his class, and I thought that I had a pretty good eye because obviously I post foot scenario.
Post child foot fetish.
Yeah.
Morgan.
I obviously take a lot of photos on my phone, but I wasn't like one of those basic white girls that was like, I am an artist. I'm an iPhone photographer. Tee. Like, I just wasn't that girl. I was like, I like to take pictures, and then I shared a couple on my personal Instagram, but nothing crazy.
Well, that's the thing.
I had never really shot on a real camera.
That's what different, like, makes you different than the white, I'm an artist, is that you only shared a couple. They're just like, every picture I take is magic.
Right. Masterpieces. Love it. Yeah.
Just,
but
no.
I had never shot on a real camera, and Mr. Gagnon created a really beautiful learning space for me to create and for me to cultivate my talents, so to speak. He really has an incredible eye for budding photographers, because I've watched him create so many really talented young photographers who have just come out of his class going from like 0 to 100 in terms of knowledge. And he, for some reason, decided that my dumbass was the next great thing. So he really focused on me. He gave me more challenging assignments. It was similar. I really had a really life-changing junior year. My senior year was hell, but my junior year was really incredible because I met so many people who for some reason trusted me and let me grow and come into my own. Like, I had Andrew, who was teaching me everything, and then Mr. Alper, who was trusting me to direct, and then Mr. Gagnon, who was for some reason giving me like leverage that he shouldn't have been giving me. If that makes sense. Like, he should have. Like, it was his job. Like, he saw that I had a talent and an eye, and so he wanted to fester and, grow that as much as he could.
But he gave you a guided freedom.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that's why it changed my life, is because for the first time, it was something that I had never really delved into, whereas when Andrew placed his trust in me, when Mr. Alper placed his trust in me, it had been something that I'd been doing for a while, at least. Maybe not directing, maybe not stage managing, but I'd been doing theater for a while. I'd taken my fair walks around the block, if you will. Photography was something that I had like kind of dabbled in, but not really.
It's a whole new element.
I
had
dabbled in
taking pictures of toddler feet.
Right, yeah, that's my dabbling. And he went with me. He put a camera in my hands and he said, go outside, find these things, take these pictures, play with these settings, live your life. And I said, okay.
Almost like right out of the get-go, you got these hard assignments.
I did.
So you had to learn everything about the camera.
I did. And I don't really know why, and I would love to ask him why one day, but I am forever appreciative and indebted to him regardless.
Now, what was the hardest thing to learn about photography that you had no idea would even be a part of photography? Was there anything?
I don't want to say it came naturally to me, but I feel like it
Morgan, it's your episode. Say it came naturally.
No, but I don't want to be like a total asshole. But it was something. It just kind of happened. I got behind the camera and it was kind of just like my body knew it to do, at least a little bit. I think the most challenging part, and I knew this was going to be a part of it, so I don't think there really was anything that I didn't already anticipate, because I knew it was going to be complicated to learn the settings of the camera. I think learning how to shoot manually was the biggest arc to get over.
Yeah.
It's a really complicated thing to do, especially with absolutely no experience, really, other than, automatic settings on the camera.
Yeah.
So, and then learning how to pose things and arrange things and take things from different angles. It was just all of the techniques that I had been sort of doing, with the exception of manually shooting on a DSLR camera. It was just learning how to do all of those things. I felt like I was just learning a mile a minute. And
when along that mile a minute journey did you realize that you wanted to make it a business?
So Mr. Gagnon was collecting submissions for the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards.
Oh.
And I had taken a portrait of my friend Lauren, who is my photography partner, because we have to partner up because there's like, I think 15 DSLR cameras that the school has. And so there's
like 30 people.
30.
In the
So
class,
everybody has to have a partner and you share the camera and it's very stressful. I was really happy I bought my own camera after I had this experience and I was able to use my own in class, and that was really good.
Yeah.
But he was collecting submissions and he pulled me over and he explained to me what it was. It's this first regional and then national competition. Competition awards. It's a competition.
Is it the skeleton portrait?
Yes. I call it The Beast in the Bones. I believe it's on my photography account. It should be.
Go check. Again, link in the description.
Yeah. If it's not, I'll put it up.
Okay.
It's this really close-up black and white portrait of Lauren, and it was Halloween or the day before, and she had painted her face like a skeleton, and I took the picture because we were doing our portrait unit, and one of the prompts was a painted face, and so I just shot it randomly. I shot a bunch of pictures from that day. I'll probably post a gallery because there was quite a few that we were considering, but he came up to me and he said, we only get to submit, I think, like 6 or 8 from the school. And I want to submit this one.
Wow. Yeah.
It was a huge honor. And I won a gold key. And it was submitted for national adjudication. And I didn't win anything from the nationals, but I did win a gold key in Rhode Island. And there was only 2 pictures, I think, from South Kingstown High School that won gold keys. And there was only 8 pictures in Rhode Island that won gold keys and were submitted for national adjudication. So that's
a big deal.
That was a big deal. And it was in that moment, because I knew that I always liked shooting people more than I liked shooting landscapes. I think people have more personality.
Yeah.
But it was in that moment that I was like, okay, I won my shit. And I got featured later in a bunch of different galleries that year and continue to get featured in galleries, local ones, with pictures and portraits. All of them have been portraits. And it was in that moment that I was like, okay, yeah, why don't I just try, you know? Why don't I just try and make this a business?
And what was the first step that you took toward that goal?
I built up my portfolio.
How did you do that?
I set up a lot of photo shoots, some of which I charged money for, some of which I did not. For example, in my portfolio, if a client comes to me and says, hey, I want you to do a senior portrait shoot, they get a Google slide that I have created and have continued to update, and the pictures are all dated, so you can see my progression as a photographer, as a portrait photographer. But for example, we wanted to do promotional photo shoots for the first generation of Dimitri, so I took everybody's headshots in character and in full costume, and we just did them in the hallway of my school. This was before I had purchased lights or a backdrop or had really done anything, but we created such awesome portraits, and those are in my portfolio, and I continue to do portrait sessions in class with my classmates, and those are in there. Like, I did a really awesome impromptu session with Lena Janest, and I continued to shoot with Lauren, who's really great in front of the camera. And I just started building and building and building, and then senior portrait season came around because everybody gets their senior portraits taken in the summertime, and I just started sending that out. And I got a couple of people who wanted me to take their senior portraits. I took a couple of Christmas card shoots. I did a couple of weddings, and I just kept on adding and adding and adding and adding. So now when anybody ever approaches me, I wrote up a mock contract so they know you're getting a student photographer to shoot you. So all the pictures may not be perfect, but you are going to get access to all of the photos, contrary to a more established photographer where you basically pay for about 30 photos, you get 30 outtakes. I send you all of them, and I will edit anyone that you want, and we will go as many places as you want with as many costume changes, as many crazy props, doesn't matter to me. I try to make all my portrait sessions personalized.
How much do you usually charge for that?
I charge For the last senior portrait session I did, I charged, I want to say 75.
Okay.
And we did very inexpensive. I'm very inexpensive. I just do it really for the love of it. And, you know, I want to make people happy because what, again, made me want to make it into a business is I was taking a lot of photos of people and people will come up to me and say, this is the best photo of me that has ever been taken. And that was when I was like, oh, man.
In contrast, what do other more, like, I hate to say this because it's
established.
More established businesses charge versus what you charge, because it seems like you're giving, as you just said, a very personal shoot. You're doing a very like whatever you want, wherever you want. I'm there and I'll take photos for you for $75.
Yeah.
Versus 30 photos. And what are you getting if you choose a bigger business?
So if you choose a bigger business, obviously I contrasted with last year when I was making my portfolio, and I need to update it because at the end of my portfolio is my rates and hours and etc.
Yeah.
And let me rephrase on my pricing. For family and friends, it's $50 the first 3 hours, I believe, and then $15 for every additional hour.
That's fair.
Which is totally fair, because for the last time I checked, a more established photographer is maybe about $100 an hour, I want to say.
That's insane.
Most portrait sessions take at least two, and you get 30 outtakes.
So do you find that you're more profitable because you get that flat rate of 50?
I find that I would be, because a lot of times my portrait sessions are a day-long affair. You block them out because for me, I try to make my sessions as personalized as possible. Like, for example, I took Elizabeth's senior portraits because Elizabeth is, God bless her, she's a beautiful, beautiful girl, but it's not the most photogenic, and she's open to that. She closes her eyes a lot. It's really hard for her to get comfortable in front of a camera. So she wanted somebody she was really, really close with. She didn't want to hire a random photographer. And, you know, obviously money conscious is a big part of it. So she asked me to take hers. And so for Elizabeth, I wanted to make it super personal. So I had her come over, brought out her contract, and I gave her a couple of different, I make all of my clients a Google slide that I present to them with pictures of the locations. I go and do a pre-shoot and obviously ask them if I can shoot and whatever, because I don't want to take somebody somewhere and then not be able to shoot and then waste their time, waste their money, etc. So I go and I do a pre-shoot and I make a Google slide and I say, this is why I chose it for you. And I have them pass or take the location. And usually my shoots are about 2 or 3 locations. So for Elizabeth, I gave her...
Okay.
So
no. That was just me agreeing with you. And then checking the audio. Nothing happened.
Okay.
You're okay.
I gave Elizabeth the option of going to Black Point, which is a really nice, pretty basic backdrop. The Umbrella Factory, a vintage bookstore, even shooting in her own basement because she has an arcade down there, shooting in my basement. I have a wall of records, and all of these shooting in the Pump House because that's they make guitars there. All of these very personal to her things because Elizabeth's a writer. Let's take her to a vintage bookstore. Elizabeth loves music. Let's take her to somewhere where they're making guitars. It's super visually interesting. The Umbrella Factory, no other reason than I try to make sure that there's whimsy and seriousness in all the shoots because, especially for senior portraits, do you want to go serious or do you want to go quirky? The up and down. And I want to make sure all my clients have that option. So we brought her to the Umbrella Factory because it's just a, pretty flowers, nice backdrop.
Yeah, certainly.
So I try to make sure that all my clients have that.
It seems to me like you're providing a better deal than professional photographers for less money.
I like to think that I am. I do, because
Go check out Morgan's photography in the description below.
please, I leave on August 23rd for college. I would love to do a couple of shoots before I go. I like to say that there's pros and cons, obviously, to using a student photographer. My pictures are not all going to be perfect. I'm upfront about that. It's in the contract that you won't get mad if not all the pictures are perfect, because of course you are getting access to every single shot that I take, and usually it's about 1,000 to 2,000 photos. You get a Google folder with all of that shared with you, and you can look through and you can send me 2 pictures or 100 pictures that you want me to edit, go through, tell me everything that you want done. Flyaways taken away, whitening of the teeth, brightening of the under eyes. I will do absolutely anything. I'll make your eyes purple if you want. And I'll do any of that.
To really get the client happy.
Yes, and I'll do any of that. But of course, you're not using a professional photographer, so you may not get all those photos lickety-split, because I'm a kid and I have a life, and sometimes it's complicated to get all of those Photoshop requests done in a timely fashion, because I'm doing everything myself and all of that. But I do think that at the end of the day, you are getting a better deal, because I'll let you do as many costume changes as you want, because that's something that other people regulate. As many locations as you want, that's something that other photographers regulate. You get all the photos, which I know no professional photographer does. And I'll edit as many as you want, which is not normal.
Would you ever be interested in getting like an intern or a person to help you out with some of the editing processes of it?
If I got that big, sure. I like to say that I may not be the best photographer, but I'm a damn good editor. Because those raw photos, if you've ever seen the ugly location challenge, that's basically what I do. Like all the time, because I don't travel with my lights often. When we did the second generation of Dimitri's promotional photos, the second generation of Dimitri promotional materials, I did bring my lights. I brought all of my makeup. I did everything for everybody, which is also something that I offer to my clients. I can bring my lights. I can do your hair and makeup. I will do absolutely anything that you want me to.
So you're like an entire crew of people that you're getting for a flat rate of $50.
Yes.
I reiterate, go check out Morgan down in the description below.
Yeah.
Also, should we put out an ad like, if you're good at editing and you want to join Morgan on the...
If you want to, totally. Henry, if you want to, totally.
If you're listening to this right now and you have experience editing, comment down below.
I would also, if anybody just wants to learn a couple of basic tricks, I would be more than happy to teach people.
And if you want to learn a couple of basic tricks and pay Morgan $5 an hour.
Yeah, right.
I think that your information is pretty valuable at this point.
Yeah, I think I have a couple of pretty good shoots under my belt. And
would you ever consider raising the fee as you get more experience with everything?
I absolutely would. I actually was planning on raising my flat rate to $60 this summer, because I just have for senior portraits, because I do have a lot more experience now and a lot better technique and everything.
Honestly, for what you're describing,
yeah,
you could be like, give me 200.
And you'd be like,
and they'd just be like, seems fair. That's okay.
Well, good. I'm happy. Yeah, because I never want people to think that I'm scamming them out of their money. I try to give people a bang for their buck.
Yeah.
I want people to leave happy. And I'm lucky that every portrait session I've had, people have left happy.
Now, out of all those portrait sessions that you've done, not only portrait sessions, but any shoot at all.
Right.
What's the one that you had the most fucking, like, the best experience doing? Like, the most fun out of any shoot that you've done?
2. I have 2.
Good.
3.
Describe all of them.
Perfect. First,
vivid detail.
First, Elizabeth Senior portraits. It was raining. We went to the dollar store. We got about 30, 40 balloons. And because Elizabeth is fun, whimsical, colorful. She had this awesome striped tank top that she had brought for one of her costume changes. And I had the idea of going to Black Point and taking it with balloons because one of our inspirations was the Miley Cyrus Malibu music video, because that music video is just very Elizabeth, very boho, free spirit, fun, whimsical, whatever.
Yeah, I see that.
So I was like, I want to shoot with balloons. And that's when balloons became my thing.
That was the moment where you were like, oh.
Shooting with balloons is hard. First and foremost, let me just say, shooting with balloons is hard. It's like herding cats.
Herding cats.
Herding cats.
Not even cattle.
Cats.
The most stubborn animal in the world.
It really is. And they run everywhere. It's terrible because you have to control them and you have to shoot so fast and, you know, make sure they're not covering faces or whatever. So that's when balloons became my thing.
Yeah, because like if you put them down, they're going up.
Right. Right. And you have to hold them a specific way if you say you want to take a tight shot on the face with balloons in the back, which ended up being Elizabeth's senior portrait, which you can see on my photography Instagram. She had to hold them behind her back, close her fist around the base of the balloons, where the string and the balloon actually met. Hold that behind her back in a very uncomfortable position.
Did you not get that arm into the shot? Did you try to? You got that arm into the shot? Or
no,
I didn't get the arm into the shot.
You take it tight, so it's on the. I keep on hitting this because I'm like miming the camera. You get basically the middle of the chest up. And
it looks like it's just
like, oh, like
fine.
It's just like, oh, she's holding her hands behind her back, or like you don't even see that, you just see arms. You just see like shoulders.
That's creative.
Yeah. And then
up your feet to 60. Fucking,
I like to think that I'm really creative. Like Mike Joyce reached out to me recently about taking his senior portraits, and I've been thinking about locations, and for example, I'm going to take him to an arcade because, you know, he has a gaming channel with Henry. Link in the description.
Jake and I don't know if we want to plug Jake and Hank on this podcast.
I think what you guys are doing is awesome, but balloon portraits have become my thing. I've done them with a whole bunch of people. That brings me to my second favorite shoot, which was senior prom 2018. Because Elizabeth's senior portraits were just so frick-frack-a-lack and cool, I wanted to do the same thing for prom because I thought it would be a really cool, whimsical, fun thing to add to this really serious, fuddy-duddy occasion. And I didn't really tell anybody that I was getting the balloons until like the day before. Mm-hmm. And I bought 100 balloons, 20 for each girl, and 25 for each girl, and they coordinated with their dresses. So for example, my dress was blue and pink, so my balloons were pink, blue, and then they ran out of the royal blue color that I liked, so I added a little bit of purple.
And a little gold.
And a little gold.
It's a little gold. Also, I'm making a note now of like how many things to add in the description.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. And that was super fun because I had this expertise that nobody else had because everybody was just like posing with their balloons and the pictures just weren't coming out that great. So I was like, okay, hold it like this and grip it firmly and like, ew. And, you know, like contort.
And then I realized I was shooting for porn. And I was like,
it was crazy. But I was like, contort your arm like this and grip the balloons. And I can't make this not sound sexual, but I was giving all these instructions. And it was really funny because all the parents who didn't realize that this is something that I do pretty often, were like, wow, Morgan, you should be a photographer. You're great at giving directions. And I'm like,
or you should be a director.
Because you're great at giving directions. Wah, wah. So that was my second favorite shoot. I really loved that. I thought that was super fun. I have a bunch of awesome photos from prom with just people having fun. And it
was amazing. It was a fun prom.
It was a fun prom.
We went to prom in the same like
group.
Yeah.
And then my third favorite was the second round of Dimitri promotional materials. Because that was my first time. Because I always offer hair and makeup. But for my... Henry just did the face that was in his final headshot. I always offer hair and makeup. Nobody had ever taken me up on it. I am pretty good at hair and makeup, I like to think. At least I'd make people look good.
The rate's up to 80.
Yeah, no.
No.
If you want hair and makeup, it is an additional 20.
Oh. All right.
Because it is a lot of work. It's another hour and a half, 2 hours of my time.
Which I mean, in your fee, it's an extra 15 for every hour, so that's fair.
Yeah,
it's like an hour and a half, and
absolutely.
You're sticking to that. I interrupted.
No, it's okay. I'm glad that you're pointing out the terrible amounts of thought that I've gone into making my fees.
Oh yeah.
But it was my first time ever really doing a full photo shoot. We had brought, well, not my first, well, yeah, it was my first time doing everything, because I had done makeup for every single member of the cast, hair for every single member of the cast. I had brought in my lights to the school. We had picked out a backdrop, got them into costume, which I had also designed and picked out myself. And I had a list of, have to get a headshot for the promotional materials of every single character by themselves. Then we have to get a shot of all the boys, a shot of all the girls, a shot with Elizabeth in it, a shot with Elizabeth and I in it, a shot with Meredith in it, a shot with Dimitri and Forrest together, a shot with Kat and Forrest together, a shot with Judy and Jamal, with Dimitri and Louise. I had to get all of these things because we did a lot of performances of Dimitri and we had to have enough materials to share. And also I had a lot of other schemes because I really like graphic design and marketing, and that's another thing of what I'm doing when I go to school. So I had thoughts that everybody was going to get their own personalized poster that they were then going to share. But that was just a really cool experience for me, was just doing everything. And again, just being the mastermind behind this whole thing. And the pictures just came out so awesome.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So incredible.
And then the little edits that you did were just like fit the character perfectly. It was just a nice experience and brought the cast even closer together.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, you're into portraiture.
Yes.
You love portraiture.
Yes.
There is a rule in portraiture that says the goal of the photographer is to put the subject at ease. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that? Or do you think that it varies based on the circumstance? Like, if you want to capture, like, that guy's thinking about death, do you want to put him at ease?
Yes and no. I absolutely believe that for, senior portrait or something that you're getting paid for. All right. That's the standard. Something that you're getting paid for as the photographer. Getting paid for a senior portrait, a Christmas card photo. Your job is to strictly put the subject at ease and get the best, most beautiful, smiling portrait that you absolutely can. Now, if you're doing a portrait that's a little bit more candid or raw, that portrait, not necessarily your job to put the subject at ease. Your job is then to capture that person's story. Capture a moment in time. Okay. So, for example, I do a lot of candid portraiture that I don't really share online. There's this one photo that I have of you that I never shared with you.
Okay. That's
It was at one of my parties, and you were in the corner all alone. You were a little bit uncomfortable. I think you might have been a little low or high, or depending. You were just you had taken yourself aside.
Blood sugar wise.
Yeah. Henry has diabetes.
Yeah. There's going to be an entire episode on that.
Right. And you were in the corner and you had separated yourself, and there was groups of people on either side of you. And you were staring down at your little insulin thing?
My pump?
Yeah, your pump.
Yeah.
And you had this really troubled expression on your face, and you had your hand half open in your bag. And the lights were shining on you in just a way, because I think it was at my Halloween party, so I had a bunch of spooky lights going on. And it was not my job in that moment to put you at ease. It was my job in that moment to capture what you experience on a day-to-day.
Can I have that photo?
Sure, if I can find it.
I really want that photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. That's like, I'm in this like interview mode. It just, like, threw me for a loop. But Bravo.
Thank you.
Good job. You're a good photographer. Who knew?
I don't.
So we already touched on this a little bit, but my next question kind of falls back into it. I'm guessing I'm going to answer this question after I ask it.
Sure.
What's your favorite thing to shoot? People. Yeah.
People, because for the exact same reason, my favorite portraits to do are the ones where I capture people in their most raw and beautiful form. And something that I have in my portfolio at the end of it is something that I believe that I think separates me from other photographers, is that I understand that not every moment is going to be picture perfect, so to speak. I understand that the most beautiful photos are sometimes ones where there are tears streaming down people's faces and people are not dressed to the nines and their hair is in a messy bun and they don't look flawless. But those are wonderful. I want everybody to believe in the same way that I do, that there is beauty in every moment that we live.
I'm going to try to pull up a photo that goes along with that. But my next question is, what's the greatest time of day, in your opinion, to shoot someone?
Well, golden hour is obviously...
Well, yes, but like other than that. We're getting a note in the studio, so
oh my
you
gosh.
answer that and I'm going to get this.
Early in the morning is a really awesome time if you can get people. Hold on.
We're passing notes.
Yes. So, yeah. My phone has been off because I am obviously recording. And my mom wants me to text her.
So golden hour for all the people that don't know what golden hour is.
Is the hour before the sun rises or before the sun sets. That's obviously the best for diffused light and yada, yada, yada. I guess the best time is when people are their most vulnerable, if that sounds weird. But I guess that would be it. But when they're most comfortable. For example, when I take people out on a portrait shoot, I always make sure that my least favorite location is the first that I take you to. Because the first location is always the worst location. People need time to warm up, to get comfortable in their own skin. All of that. So when people are comfortable and they are happy and they are confident, that is the best time to shoot somebody. And then the other best time would be when they are vulnerable or something beautiful is happening that you just want to capture.
There's a photo of a boy that I just found. And the reason why this photo is so famous is because the photographer was shooting landscapes and he started to walk away. And he put the camera in his bag and he captured this photo of a boy that was just standing on the sidewalk. Not really doing anything special.
Yeah.
But it instantly became famous as the boy on the sidewalk. And everyone was like, that's a cool posed portrait. And then it became more famous because it was completely by accident.
Yeah.
Which follows what you said.
Yeah.
If you shoot people raw, it's usually their best.
Yeah, for example, I have this photo of Alexi, one of my friends, and Donna, one of my friends. And Donna lives in Germany, and she was a foreign exchange student here for a year, and a lot of people love her. And Lexi didn't know that Donna was coming home, or coming back to Rhode Island, rather. And we surprised Lexi with Donna at her house. And Lexi was in her pajamas, and her hair was all a mess. We didn't tell her that we were coming. And there's this beautiful photo where Lexi is just hugging her and crying. And by every standard, that photo should be ugly, but it is one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go into the more technical aspect of photography really fast. So, the famous thing that people hear once they're first starting with photography is you have to master ISO, f-stop, and aperture.
Yep.
Give us a basic definition of each one of those. So I'm going to start with, what is the basic definition of ISO?
ISO is a way to brighten photos if you can't adjust your aperture or your f-stop. It's measured by numbers. Essentially, 100 is the ISO that you would be shooting on an absolutely beautiful sunny day with no clouds. And then 1600, for example, would be something you would use in a room with no windows, like if you were shooting something on a stage or, just in a room with no windows. And there's just like fluorescent or artificial light happening.
Okay. And then the second one. What is the basic definition of f-stop?
F-stop is the length of time your lens is open to expose the sensor to light.
Okay. And then number 3, what is the basic definition of aperture?
Aperture controls the depth of field. If the aperture is small, the depth of field is large. The basic way to describe it is just like it's what's in focus and what's in the blurry background.
Okay. And now, I'm sure that we're all wondering, new to photography, how do we get off automatic mode?
Practice.
Just practice?
Practice, trial and error, playing with your settings on your camera.
Mastering those 3 things.
Mastering those 3 things. That is the best advice and the only advice that I can really give you.
All right, well, we're going to take another little break.
Woohoo!
And then we're going to play a game. Because my show always ends with the game.
Yay.
So, Morgan doesn't know what it is because the
No,
guest
I don't.
never knows what the game is. Hang up for the music. We'll be right back with the station. Okay, guys. We're back. We're still with Morgan.
Yeah.
We've talked about a bunch of her accomplishments, a bunch of her dreams, a bunch of her goals. But the one thing that we didn't talk about was that in addition to all of your accomplishments, I'm going to restart that sentence because that wasn't English.
Yeah, great.
In
cool.
addition to all of your accomplishments, you also host a pop culture podcast called ... So I thought we would dive into some headlines.
Okay.
Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a headline.
Okay.
You have to tell me if it's real or if it's fake.
Oh my goodness. I read so many crazy news stories a week just to prepare for ... So this
Here
should
we
be
go.
fun. Oh my gosh, she has a whole paper. It's like a whole thing.
I'm going to take this because I don't want you to see through the paper.
Perfect. I don't have that great of eyesight.
Okay. Number 1. Florida man attempts to smoke crack in ICU, almost burns down hospital.
Oh,
a lot of them are Florida
that
people.
I'm from Florida.
Keep it.
That makes sense.
That's true. You get 1 point.
It has to be true.
Hold on to that 1 point
Right.
in your mind.
Okay.
Man flashes buttocks at IHOP after impersonating a police officer to get free food.
That can't be real.
That is true.
No.
That happened.
No.
That is an actual real
What
thing.
kind of world do we live in that, like, you can get free food if you're a police officer? Well, you know what? Didn't even need to finish that sentence.
Woman floods home because she, quote, didn't have money for a pool.
Honestly, not true.
That is correct. You get 2 points now.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 4. Florida man caught with, quote, active meth lab in his pants.
No.
That is true.
How do you have a meth lab in your pants?
No idea. The amount of articles I read in preparation of this.
I don't doubt it
is
for a
crazy.
second.
Number 5. Crocodile sneaks into Home Depot, takes hammer, then leaves.
No.
That is another point for Morgan. You have 3 points. Here we go. Florida man streaks school parking lot, claims it was for charity.
Yeah.
That was false.
Really?
That is not true.
See,
No.
that feels right to me, though.
I got really creative with these things. Okay.
No kidding.
Woman's, quote, stomach bug, actually baby.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Women,
true.
You know what? Women's bodies are confusing. I get it, ladies.
You still have a chance to win this.
Okay.
To win this whole thing. Man tattoos Black Widow's... I just said
Attempt
whittle.
again, buddy.
I just said whittle.
Attempt again.
Man tattoos Black Widow spider on his face to combat arachnophobia.
No.
That is true.
Really?
Yeah, that made national news.
That's crazy.
It's so stupid.
Or is it genius? Honestly.
You still have a chance to win all
Okay.
of this. Florida man offers officer $3 and a steak dinner for sex.
Oh, yeah.
That is false.
God damn it.
He offered him a chicken dinner.
Oh, that's so cheap. Oh, no.
Actually, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
All right, and then the final one, whether you win or whether you lose.
Okay.
Florida man attempts to leave store with chainsaw stuffed down his pants.
Yeah.
She's won the game.
Yeah.
Folks. She's done it.
I told you.
All right. And just to wrap up, I have one more question for you because we've been sitting here for, I think, about 2 hours at this point.
Great.
Did you have fun on the show?
I had so much fun on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And also, take a moment, tell people what you're up to, tell people what you're doing. Say your piece with the microphone before it leaves you.
Okay, well, this microphone will not be leaving me because I'm sure in the next couple of weeks we'll be uploading another episode of ... Shh.
It's fine.
But yeah, ... is something that I'm doing before I go for college. While I'm still in college, I'm trying to come and take some recording breaks if Henry will have me. It's a really cool pop culture, current events, music podcast that I love hosting. I love researching. I love doing all of that. I'm going to school in the fall, so I'll be doing lots of directing, photography, all of that cool stuff. Right now I'm not working on any crazy projects, just doing a lot of working at a summer camp and a lot of catering work and just getting ready for this next crazy transition in my life. If you want to keep up to date with me, you can follow me on Instagram, Morgan Alley Photo, or Morgan Alley X, which is my personal Instagram. Just life's always spinning 10 miles a minute, so guess that's what I'm doing.
All right, well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for sticking with us through the notes in the studio, through a little bit of technical difficulties, and above all, through the information that we got here today. Thank you once again, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Station.
Woo!